can never be the same again.
Warning: this video contains flashing images.
Whispers of Cwm Penwern. The village of Cwm Penwern clung to the hillside like a scar time had forgotten, nestled in a fold of mist and shadow deep in the valleys of mid-Wales. 13 stone cottages crouched along a single winding lane, their windows always shuttered, their chimneys breathing smoke only in the coldest months. A derelict chapel slumped at the edge of the village like a drunkard in prayer, and the pub, once called the Hollow Hearth, hadn't served a soul in decades. Even the road in was reluctant, a single-lane track that twisted like a noose and vanished behind the hills. No one moved there. People only left, or were left behind. It was November when Dr. Elin Thomas arrived. A historian and folklorist from Cardiff, she came in search of silence, though she would never know peace again. Elin rented the old schoolhouse, an eerie structure that had remained untouched since the turn of the 20th century. The villagers had let her take the keys without ceremony. No contracts, no smiles, just a cold metal key pressed into her palm and averted gazes. "It's yours if you want it," said the old woman who ran the post office from a garden shed, "but you won't last long." She thought they were just being superstitious. The schoolhouse loomed at the end of a lane that disappeared into bracken and fog. It stood alone, surrounded by overgrown thorns and rusted iron gates that no longer latched. Ivy crept through the cracks in the windows. On the door, barely visible beneath peeling paint, was a carving. Yraisin Gweld. Those who see. Her first night was silent. Not peaceful, silent. An oppressive, unnatural silence that pressed against the windows. No owls hooted. No wind stirred the trees. Even the air in her lungs felt too still. She unpacked, lit a fire in the grate, and told herself it was just an old house in an old village. But that night, as she tried to sleep in the attic bedroom, she heard it. A faint tapping, rhythmic, measured, like fingers drumming on a table. She told herself it was the pipes, or rats, or the house settling. But by the third night, the tapping had changed. It was no longer random. It came in patterns, from the hallway, then from the other side of her bedroom door. She rose, trembling, and opened it, only to find the corridor empty. Yet the air was thick with the scent of damp earth. And something sweeter. Rot, but not fresh. The smell of old decay, softened by time. She spoke to a villager the next morning, a man named Aled, who had lived in Cwm Penwern all his life. "The schoolhouse?" he said, eyes narrowing. "You're hearing the children." She laughed uneasily. "Children? I thought no one lived here under 70. He didn't smile. 6 of them died in that building in 1903, officially pneumonia, but people know the truth. She waited, unsure whether to humor him. "There was a scarlet fever outbreak," he continued. The headmistress panicked. She locked the school from the outside, nailed it shut, and fled. Why would she do that? Aled's gaze went distant. Because they weren't right, not after they came back from the woods. Elin frowned. What woods? He pointed behind the schoolhouse, a patch of trees choked in mist. They disappeared for a day, he whispered. No one saw them leave, and when they returned, they didn't speak, didn't eat, just stared, all six, blank, still, as if something else wore their skin. They were sick, delirious. They never coughed, never sweated, and none of the other children caught it, just them. The headmistress said they were changelings, hollowed out, wearing human faces. That night, Elin awoke at 2:14 a.m. to children's voices, singing, high-pitched, off-key, the notes of a nursery rhyme she vaguely recognized. Daugi bach, waen redeg ear farchnad, two little dogs running to market. The tune was warped, slowed down like an old record. It drifted down the stairs from the classroom below. She grabbed her recorder and tiptoed through the schoolhouse. Moonlight poured through the broken panes like silver knives. Dust danced in the light, and along the walls, dozens of tiny handprints, some fresh, some smeared, some dragged downward, clawing, others impossibly high, as if the children had climbed the ceiling. The classroom door creaked open before she touched it. Inside, 6 figures stood behind the desks, children, or the memory of them. Their faces were pale, dirt-streaked, their hair was matted, skin stretched tightly over 2 long limbs, empty sockets where eyes should be, smiles that split their faces ear to ear. They didn't speak, they didn't move, they just watched. She turned and fled, heart hammering against her ribs like a bird trapped in a cage. At dawn, she went back to Aled, desperate for answers. You've seen them now, he said grimly. They'll follow you if you leave, but they don't like being watched. So she stayed, set up cameras in every room, kept every light burning. She even drew chalk circles around her bed, old protective wards she half remembered from her grandmother. For 2 nights, nothing. Then, on the third, 3:17 a.m., she watched through the monitor as 6 childlike shapes emerged from the walls. Not from doorways, from the stone itself. One by one, they stepped into the frame, their heads turned in eerie synchronicity to face the camera. And then, the smallest of them tilted its head. Its mouth moved for the first time, and her screen went black. The lights in the house snapped off, one by one. She didn't scream, not then, not aloud, but something deep inside her soul did, and it kept screaming long after the room went silent. They found her 3 days later. She was sitting cross-legged in the center of the classroom, facing the blackboard. Her eyes had been removed, not gouged, but cleanly taken, like pearls from a shell. No blood, just 6 muddy handprints arranged in a circle around her. And on the blackboard, scratched in white chalk, a single word, seen. The schoolhouse is still there. The villagers don't go near it. The door's been nailed shut again. Thick iron bars now bolted across the windows. But sometimes, on cold, mist-slick nights, locals swear they hear children singing. A lullaby, faint as a breath. A giggle that doesn't echo. And a tapping sound from the inside of the door